Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning to we audience, uh, VOS audience. Today, na Sunday, January 22nd, 2023. So we come back again from last week for just get some discussion about many other things that were not of concern to we, Australians them. As we all know, say this na interactive uh, broadcasting, meaning that it's usually live as it is today, allowing people in from every part of the world where they listen for calling at any time and make some practical suggestions or ask questions or any other meaningful contribution we can make. So as we do, we always welcome that. So now we also, I can always like for bring to the attention of the listeners, them or the audience, that uh, one of the co-hosts is Fadima Savage, has been on vacation. So sooner or later she will be reporting back to the show. But until then, we just have to just take note of the fact that you should not be expecting her on the show this week or next week. That said, let me just go to the usual announcements that we can make before the show really gets going. One, so we get certain numbers then, or we can put on the screen for give people them the opportunity for know how for reach with, depending on where they which side they. And also we also can make known to people them for say with the carry this broadcast is being carried on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, so you can catch me in a damn medium than they also. Now, if you call, we have a toll-free number of 866-944-7722. 866-944-7722. And that's generally if you call from anywhere, that's toll-free, particularly if you're calling from within the United States. And now if you're calling from Great Britain, it will be plus 44 2080891455. Plus 44 2080891455. And if you call from Australia, it will be plus 61 290984 plus 61 2909. Sorry, from Australia plus 61 290984 And then on WhatsApp, now 343 994 5828. 343 994 5828. So now the numbers are not for call for try for reach we just in case the regular listeners them are very much aware. Also, we get with the trend of late now the show is while the broadcasting that take place or the presentations are being made, if a caller get any suggestion or question for bring up, call right away. Let we know that you are on the line because the control room will put you on hold for alert with that there's a caller on the line, and then we will check the call. We'll hold off on waiting with the say, check the call. Since we don't know how many minutes or how much time you have to hold. Because we're not going to know what are your circumstance and where you to call from. So call at any time. The lines are open as soon as we get started. As soon as we start talking something of substance where you get a question or contribution for make. So that said, let me just go right from the start of what we plan for do. Today's broadcast will involve, we already get on the program, we get the Edmund Abu case, Edmund Abu, not the case, not the gentleman and the way they represent or is a spokesperson for social media, for civil society, and that this person had taken the cell phone companies them to court with respect to gouging, so to speak. Now, American will call them gouging. That's trying to rip off the public by making illegal against them from the fees they wouldn't charge. And then say this case, now case will be in a court since 2017, is still ongoing. And so what happened, the case finally ended up before a Justice Fisher, but somehow Mr. Abu ended up running a file with the judge or the court or the law. So that said, he was held in contempt of court and was locked up in Panamba Road for he was sent there for 20 days, but I think he did about 9 days. Then the judge released him pending further proceedings. So that this is in a nutshell for Mr. Abu. Then, of course, we get other issues like the airports, the Lungi airport issue. Since it's a trending topic as to whether it's a new airport or it's not a new airport. Is it an extension of the new airport, of the old airport, or is it a new airport? Is it a terminal, just an improvement, or a new terminal, or is it a new airport? So what makes up a new airport? What are the things that will make what you were able to call an airport new? Also, would you think about the cost ratio? They say the airport costs about 270 million US dollars, and the airport also will be managed by a group called the Suma Group. And we understand say it's a Turkish group. So we don't know whether it is registered as a foreign company, not a country, operating as a foreign company, but managing the airport, or is it an indigenous Sierra Leonean company? And if so, whether the spirit of the law, if not the letter of the law, with respect to the operation of foreign corporations in Sierra Leone were followed. So then we talk about that also. We want to touch on that. And then, of course, there's this new development about people were given just 1 day notice that the employment at the airport ends. I think they were given notice on the 19th that the employment end on the 20th, within the next day. So there are many other ramifications of that, whether that was proper for give people a 1 day notice that the job will end the following day, and whether these people, this Suma Group, if it is a private enterprise and a foreign company, can they just sack or fire government or quasi-parastatal employees them? And so what rights do employees have under such condition? And then I think we get an understanding that the Suma Group actually doesn't take over the actual operation until March. So if the actual operation are until March, why are people being told to leave right now? So there are a lot of questions coming up on this Lungi issue. So we want us to try to address that and see anybody will get any good idea. They can come up with, they can call me and tell which thing happened. So before we get any of that, but so these are the main topic: the Edmund Abu case, the Lungi case, and then of course there is this. The Parliament is about to pass what you call, or in the debates, what you call the Employment Act of 2023. So we will try to touch on that. My co-host, my visiting co-host, Mr. Victor Mangot, will be addressing some of them things. He too will be on the show as soon as possible. All right. So let me go now to, we'll get every now and then we can bring to our attention some trending issues, things that we will just look for sight as an example, or we will for seeing our own country, we will not see much of in terms of good example on the part of politicians or on the part of professionals and so on and so forth. So we get one video where I go ask the control room for play for we about this Gambian female parliamentarian where in the House of Parliament in Gambia, team up there address mostly the male membership with respect to, I just paraphrase the woman in talking, with respect to how they really are not serious about representing the people. They are there representing themselves, looking out for themselves, and she expressed great disappointment. So that's a good example for the country and for Gambia as well as the region. And I think that's been going around because I think even Nigerians themselves see that as a great example. So I will ask the control room for play that for we and let we all listen. And then if we get any more comments, we can make them. Now,
the Honorable Member for Banjul South.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I would first of all like to thank the committee clerks of this August House for the great work that they have done by spending the whole night in this August Assembly preparing a report for us. I thank you, clerks of the National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, I think looking at the Honorable Minister's statement and looking at the budget, I think that our government does not love this country. They do not have the feeling to nurture our children in this country. Honorable Speaker, $6 billion in salaries alone, not in administrative cost. Honorable Speaker, and we say we are a poor country. Honorable Speaker, the median age in this country is 19 years old. We should consider the life and the livelihood of our children. We should be investing in education. We should be investing in health rather than paying ourselves, feeding ourselves out of the poor people of this country. I will start with this August Assembly, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, to see the salary of the Honorable Speaker increased from 658 million to 658,000 to 1,560,000, I feel ashamed to call myself an honorable member. Honorable Speaker, I gave myself for service. I did not give myself for the poor people to feed me and my family. Honorable Speaker, when I saw this, I felt embarrassed. I did not want to come to this budget session because I said to myself, there is no need, because we are just sharing the cake in our pockets, going home, feeding ourselves. Not only that, but to see the responsibility allowance, the residential allowance, the robin allowance, and all those for the representatives of the people. It is embarrassing for me to go back to my poor constituency and tell them that the meager resources of this country, I am paid that much at your expense. I took an oath, Honorable Speaker, to serve and to give back to my society, not to enrich myself. And even if I go to the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, it says that we shouldn't deliberately enrich ourselves, and increasing our salaries is deliberately enriching ourselves, and that is an embarrassment. I think as a National Assembly, we should not accept any salary increment. It was in this August Assembly that we sat and discussed the salaries of the ministers and denied them, even though they went behind our backs and increased it. That is their problem. We offered ourselves for service, Honorable Speaker. We were not appointed. We were elected and we offered ourselves, Honorable Speaker. And I think we should think of our people when we do the budget. I'm not allowing you to observe me. I don't have that time. When you are on your own feet, observe yourself, please.
All right. Now we see what a difference it makes. What a prime example is being set by this honorable member of parliament in the Gambia. And this is a prime example of how you can separate seriousness from unseriousness, dedication for just being uncaring, commitment, from any other casual type of approach to governance. Now we see where this woman is expressing a disappointment, and for a change, I mean, it's so good that she's a woman who is addressing all these mostly male parliamentarians as to what they are doing to their country, or what they not even do for their country, because they are talking about increasing the closer you wear, then they call a robe allowance. Then they talk about increasing in salary. Then they talk about increasing other things. But in the general thing, in the general scheme of things, nothing is being said as to how the people in life will be improved by the government. So, and this is characteristic of a lot of governments them in Africa, that the people elect them, but once they come in, they see it as an opportunity for better themselves, financially, mostly. And in fact, in this woman's speech, you see where he say, even when the minister they asked for salary in parliament rejected the request, the minister then go back, figure out a way how to circumvent or go around the salary increase for them they asked for. So they end up getting it anyway. But the woman put that in proper perspective. He say, well, we, the parliamentarians, we do what we get for do. We reject the request for increase in salary. So if then go behind we back, then do other thing. That is the problem, not your we own problem. And I agree with the woman. You see, because there's a responsibility there. And what you say also that in kind of parliament for render service, not to forget gentry. But we all know that 99% of people will run for parliament. 99%. In other words, 9 out of every 10 people are already going to politics. Now, most African countries, Sierra Leone in particular, not for themselves. They not get one agenda for say, well, when I go in, I go introduce a bill or a law, or for become a law. We go make changes for the better of the people. One of the area parliamentarians then talk about public housing. For example, one of the area parliamentarians then talk about health for the poor. One of the area parliamentarians then talk talk about as to proposing ideas and holding the government feet to the fire. For see, we're not get public housing, we're not get affordable housing, We're not the area parliamentarians and talk about this consistent problem where the country gets, where people and just always one man go sell 5, 6, 7 land in the country, where they probably not even own. They said the same land to about 5, 6 people. We still have not been able to come to grips with that problem. Therefore, be able to try for let the courts them well, Parliament passed laws, and there are a lot of good laws they can pass and can make them criminal. If you try for sale land, because legally, to be honest, land owner to you own, since land get for do with title, ownership of title, which means reaching recorded instrument, no one should be able to sell land owner to you own as a practical matter. But I think the way they can craft a legislation towards that for making criminal, they can bring out a false pretense statute for say, if you try for sale, if you present yourself to the public or to any individual that you own a piece of real estate that is not yours, and in the process, you accept money and fraudulently sign the document transferring title to that person, the good faith buyer, that we can the person, the court, you can be charged with fraud, misdemeanor or a felony. And if we really want to eliminate this problem, what we can able to do is to quickly just say, if you're found to be guilty of that, you can be given a 3-year active sentence in jail for just try for sale land. And then if you get a bad faith buyer, somebody will know say, or will get reason for belief say, that land did not to you own, or the person where they pretend where they try for sell not to get her, and he go they try for make that transaction they take place anyway. It should be likened to where you receive stolen property, for which there are laws in Sierra Leone. In Sierra Leone, if they catch you with thief property, and no matter say not to you thief, it's a crime. You see, but we know they make the effort. So I'm going back to that. That's the try for analyze the video we'll look at with the Gambian parliamentarian, trying for talk about the responsibility of parliamentarians. Them. So what happens? The parliamentarian wanna come that then ills the day of society when for come they try for rectify, for improve the system so it go work for we all, for it go work for unborn generations. But what you would do, what kind of power would they try for not only for handicap existing laws, would they undermine existing laws for make them not work? Okay, we think say it's okay for a case for take 5, 6, 7 years in court, and people don't seem bothered by that. The profession don't seem bothered by that, and serving useful purpose, but putting society behind. So that woman they in address to the Gambian Parliament, where if you check that same clip there, it can apply so 100% squarely to we on parliamentarians them too, because they themselves are mostly doing the same thing, So we just want for just analyze that. When we see something of interest, particularly something of that type there, we always like for make people that know, let people then see, let people that know say, there are still dedicated people around the world who are committed. Unfortunately, those people always find themselves in the minority. Now, Sierra Leone, we do have certain parliamentarians them. I know we name, but some of them I know them, young, active Sierra Leoneans them within a parliament. We mean well. We want for do like that woman they do, but they are not in the majority. So I just want to touch on that. My co-host, Mr. Victor Mangot, is here. And so, like I say, I will talk about the issues that we will get for address, particularly starting with the Lungi airport. Starting with Mr. Edmund Abu in case. So let me just make Mr. Mangot reintroduce himself to Una, then we can go to the main topic. Yes, sir, Mr. Mangot. Go ahead.
Me family them in a good evening and a good afternoon, in a day. Yeah. Can you hear me, everybody?
Yes.
Can
Yes.
you hear me?
Yes. Control room, Mr. Mangot might be having difficulty. So, in the meantime, while that is being taken care of, let me just touch on the Edmund Abu case. Now, one of the main topics then for today, now a case involving a young man, we then say now part of the civil society group. We go now we go say a group where they represent or they push issues, them public interest issues. So this man is named Edmund Abu. He is one of those people where I think you can say take the cell phone companies them to court. And this case came up 2017. They say the case has been around 5 years. So it's a case that started during the Ernest Koroma time and has gone through this period, still ongoing. So yeah, Mr. Mangot is back.
Sorry about the interruption. Okay,
no problem.
Yeah. Before me and Victor Akumengot and I join we co-host today, Mr. Shilon, on this program. My area I will look about more or less now this airport issue. And I look from the background of when I start my career in a Lungi airport. 46 years. I look waiting them provide, how they go manage the airport and whose benefits we continue to get, and some of the challenges now go outline this evening. So joining the conversation, and this now for the benefits of we all. We're not getting no problem about having new infrastructure, but let's get it right. And let answer the question the way people they ask, and I will give me expert opinion. Thank you.
All right, sir. Now, let me start up with the Edmund Abu case. In brief, this was a civil society representative who took the telephone companies them to court because of excess or undue charges on the populace. So the matter has been in court for 5 years, almost, or at least 5 years. So, and then say the case shall come before at least 4 judges. The current judge, Justice Fisher, is the 4th judge, where sits on the case. So while the proceeding or judgment was pending or was being contemplated, it is believed that Mr. Abu had been making comments out of court, giving press, making statements to the press with respect to the status and the nature of the case before Judge Fisher. And the other side brought to the attention of the judge that Mr. Abu has been going around talking about the case and has been talking about some judgment that had not been pronounced in court by the judge, nor given to either side or handed over to either side. But Mr. Abu somehow has been making statements out there that he knew he was going to prevail, that he does see the judgment, and on and on and on and on. So one thing led to another, he came to court. So the judge, having been told that, cited Mr. Abu, in a nutshell, he cited Mr. Abu for contempt of court. So far what we've read, and we're still trying to get some clarity on the issue, whether there was a prohibition by the court, some type of restriction, some type of order that was issued that the parties to the litigation should not make any statement to the press or out of court, whether there was such existing order or whether that's the order that Mr. Abu disobeyed. So the question number one, was there an existing order by the court, orally or in writing, prohibiting Mr. Abu or anyone else from, or the litigants, the participants to the case, from speaking out outside the courtroom about the case? If there were no such orders, and then the judge found it necessary to cite Mr. Abu for contempt, there are several issues that I just want to raise, which may have already been raised, or maybe the court might have even taken into account, because in the end, Mr. Abu was sent to Pademba Road prison. And I think this is a civil case, but he was being held in criminal contempt, which is another problem here, as far as I know, procedurally, you know, because usually when a civil case is in process and someone is found in contempt of court, where there's a factual basis for the finding, this person may be fined monetarily. That would be the penalty that will be imposed on the person, on the violator. But to lose your right to be detained, that is an extraordinary act by the court, because that's one. Two, I think the judges have to be reminded that a judge's order not to speak about a case that is in progress cannot be absolute, because individuals do have constitutional right of free speech, and free speech also covers comments or commentaries on an existing case. In fact, recently we see where the Supreme Court get its proportional representation case before them. I couldn't think of any reasonable basis why they say it should not be commented upon by the press. It should not be written about, so to speak. There was no rational basis for that kind of a restriction there. And if it is a practice that we have, that cases that are ongoing in court should not be commented upon by the press, I think there should be a reconsideration of that rule there in terms of freedom of expression. What harm is done when a case is in front of a judge? Because generally, you may be sensitive to the fact that if it's a jury trial, certain comments out of court may prejudice the mind of the jury, particularly if they're not sequestered, if they're not put in a room where they're not going to be exposed to information. If the jury is not sequestered, I can understand the rationale for the court saying, well, I will not want, we'll go advise the litigants them and the lawyers, not for discourse, then case there with the press or anything, for fear that it will prejudice the jury. But in a case where the judge sitting as a jury and as a judge, I mean, whose ruling is going to be based mostly on the law and facts, I don't see why any out-of-court discussion on an existing matter should be that prejudicial or should be a cause for concern. So it would seem to me, just looking at it from that standpoint there, I will confess, I do not have all the facts. One concern that I have is, was there an order by the court that people shouldn't speak about it? And if so, or were the other side just concerned that Mr. Abu was going around talking about it? And if there was a restraining I'm seeing something like there was a restraining publication and comments on the case. Well, I don't know what a restraining publication means, because courts give orders, you know, were people being told that they shouldn't talk about that? If so, was the order given in open court and Mr. Abu knew that and he violated the judge's order? So that is of concern. And I'm saying all of this only because, you know, a constitution exists not for ordinary people per se. A constitution exists primarily to tamper, to control the power of government. That's why the constitution exists. It's mostly to restrain governmental overreach. And the courts, parliament, and then the executive, then they make the government. And sometimes it is important for make we take into account constitutional protections. So where does a defendant's rights, how far does it go, and where does it cease to exist? Or that a person, I'm waiting at the rationale for a case not to be commented upon because it's in process, or it's in, the case is ongoing. What harm is done? Probably I would like for somebody else, if it's just not a matter of practice, what harm is done if, and no one forget for say, the press also, within the context of the Constitution, have a right to publish certain proceedings, court proceedings. So we'll get to take all of that into account. How far do we let the courts just restrain free speech because they feel so? Or how far can the press and ordinary people be allowed to comment? You know? So some of these things we're just bringing up just so people will realize that there's a balancing act now. And the Constitution is there, so courts can just not ignore people's rights and flex their own muscle either. So we want a lot of these things to come to the attention of the public. So the Edmund Abu case, the other thing about Edmund Abu, he was sent to Parliamentary Road prison. In most countries, including here in the United States where I am, in such a situation, they're not going to send you to prison. You will be sent to what we will call a jail, a better facility, because you've not even been found guilty of a crime. Sentence has not been pronounced. But this guy was sent to Parliamentary Road Prison. And Parliamentary Road Prison, again, this is not part of the development we will get for getting our country. This place seems to be the place where everybody goes anytime they say you run afoul of the law. Whether you've been tried, prosecuted, whether you've just been detained, everybody goes there, which I think is a great disservice to the country. So the policymakers, and if we begin to refine the situation, where someone is just in contempt of court, as we get in this case, I don't see any reason why someone will have to go to Parliamentary Road, where we all know the reputation of the prison, the environment of the place, you know, to be locked up with common prisoners then, because a judge takes the position that you've been found in contempt. Another thing about the contempt proceedings, because I understand, say, Mr. Abu has been released, but he has to go back to court. He did 9 days, but he has to go back to court to answer to 10 counts. Well, I have not seen the counts, so it's hard for me to comment on that, but 10 counts of contempt of court. So he has to go back to court in that respect. But I will hope we know, say, the 10 counts give them plenty of, because they say at the end of the month, January 30th, but or towards the end of the month. So I would hope that that gives him adequate time to go to prepare in defense and for be able to deal with the situation. As a practical matter, in my line of practice, I have had the fortune or misfortune of representing one or two fellow lawyers them cited by judges for contempt. This is just by way of advice to whoever may be representing Mr. Abu. Generally speaking, the best way to handle those things if you're not the defense attorney for the person being accused is to handle it prior to court, not in court. Because when you go in a court, the judge where they accuse your client, the lawyer or the person you represent, it becomes a contest between you, the lawyer, and your client, and against the judge. So, because usually it's the very judge who they accuse you, client, now in the seat on the matter, for make a decision. It's just like where somebody calls you, then they say, okay, you get the power for punish the person, then the person get for appear before you, then you get for decide the punishment. So the best approach is always to get a sidebar, meaning instead of doing an open confrontational hearing, because the situation can also be awkward because there are a lot of things a defense attorney can do. I mean, if you really want to make the matter get out of control, you can request that the judge take the stand, since in the one way they accuse your client, then he becomes a witness, then who judges the case? You know, you can say your client get the right for cross-examiner, but all of that is counterproductive. It seems to me the best thing is to do a sidebar approach. You, the lawyer, with the judge and the prosecution, when I get a sidebar discussion and see if the matter can be resolved that way without taking a confrontational approach, you know. But this issue about contempt of court is one of the most awkward, unfair proceeding, in the sense that the accuser is the one who's going to try you, before whom you're going to appear, who has the ability and the power to punish you. It doesn't sound fair. So that's where a defense attorney has to be really smart, clever, not so much in terms of the law, but in terms of diplomacy and practicality. So I will hope Mr. Abu has an able lawyer where he would apply some wisdom in defense, because if not, sometimes things can get out of hand. So I just want to lay their commentary there, because the problem with Mr. Abu in your case, we're not saying that the phone companies them, we're not the gouge the people them, you know, for years. They'll take all kind of benefits. And this is another thing. People have to feel like government to protect them. Okay? And the companies then too should be penalized. The kind of award when they receive Mr. Abu gets 100 million, that is pittance compared to the money we didn't make. Okay? Because a lot of times, if there was going to be any punitive effect, if there is liability on the part of the company, then the effect for be in relation to the overall worth of the companies. For example, if you get a bobo with the sell newspaper as a sidewalk, it make 1 million leon a month, then you do something where you want to punish them. If you find out 20,000 leon for the wrong way do, you go pay them easily. Because they make 1 million, you still get 980,000 leon left. The comparison is that of a company. The court should be able to know what the company, the revenue is. And then you fashion relief in relation to what really hurts. So if a company is making $5 million a year in Australian, and then they are being accused of unfair trade practices, gouging the public, well, if you hit them with a $1 million, if their revenue are $5 million, $1 million, they will get the attention of the court and the country, and they're not going to do it again. But if you go tell the company, say they go pay 100 million leon, that's not incentive for them for discontinue the malpractice or the practices in which they engage, the unfair practices in which they engage in. So sometimes the responsibility also is on the part of those who have the power to effect changes. In this case, the courts, when the matter comes before the court, and if there is justification for such a punitive measure. So the companies then will be punished by being hit where it hurts, when are they revenue, you know? So if they don't make, if you take 50% of them profit, then no say a repeat of that can run them bankrupt if they take them to court again. So we really get, we owe with society. So I always tell people them, it is just not the politicians them, it's just not the president, it's just not the parliamentarians. The courts too are equally responsible to make positive changes in the country. You cannot allow the people to just been taken advantage of by some unscrupulous companies them. We just them your motive now for make money regardless of how. To them, the end justify the means by any means necessary. So the court self then can be part of social constructionists and practitioners when this opportunity to come before the court for them to impose judgment that are punitive. But $100 million, $100 million leon judgment, I'm not so sure if that means much of anything. But these are some of the observations there I just want to make about Mr. Abu in case. And then there's also the thing that after he was locked up, the next day or the next week, the companies them raise the rate of telephone calls them, you know, the very thing that they were being taken to court for just keep gouging the public. So we really need to do better than that, because we need to protect, like you say, to those much is given, much is expected. With politicians then, with judges, you know, with presidents, with AGs, with lawyers them, the power owner get not to just for flex when a muscle for lock somebody up. The power owner get now for make changes for the better in the lives of people. And we therefore use that power there sparingly, in a very, very meticulous, deliberate way not to for hurt people in most cases, but for help society in general. And so we therefore focus, we therefore begin to look, say, not to just we politicians anymore, you know, because the politicians, no matter how honest they do, if they allow public companies for just come and begin for gouge people, then society still will get a problem. So me just want to make that comment today, no more, then comment there on Mr. Abu. In case it's not over, I understand say he has to go back to court, but I hope then we'll find a good way for resolve the matter, because the public eyes are on, in case, for see whether the companies here, when you go after them, the system will go after you and try for silence you. And two, we will begin to see the reflection on the profession and with the judicial system. Why are cases taking so long? Why should one case have been in front of 4 judges and been in the process for 5 good years? I mean, all of that not speak well of the country. And so if somebody says something, and I think say the result now for just lock them up, because someone has the power to lock him up, okay? And at least I will hope the judge will get the opportunity for purge himself of whatever contempt he's been accused of, you know, in the general interest of the public. So that said, if Mr. Mikos, Mr. Mangot get anything to add to that, please do. Mr. Mangot? Mr. Mangot?
Well, I mean, thank you very much, Mr. Shillong.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, clearly.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Shillong. I think you don't deal with all the issues. Yeah, you don't deal with all the issues then. For me, the concern situation where we get somebody who is an activist with a fight for the rights of citizens, for go through all their strengths and day, and at the end of the day, we see what he be the fight for happen immediately after the case. So what we have to look at is how we regulate the mechanism, because most of these services, they are provided by the private companies then. And when you get private companies, nothing wrong for like private companies provide the service, but now how you regulate 10 companies a day, where the blame squarely set on NATCOM, when are the regulatory agency. And I feel to say, with this, see whether happen, it's about time NATCOM do a survey of the people that where they use their phone then day, and waiting at their satisfaction rate and the quality of service. I think we need to do that, because what Mr. Abu been effect for, not to way concern everybody. That are the only thing I go add in which you'd already explained in this whole debacle.
Yeah, well, that's a very great idea. I think so, because survey, that's another thing we will not use a lot back home. Because forget customer satisfaction and public satisfaction, it's always good for issue then survey then day. It can do by calling on the phone, or it can do by reaching surveys, pass them around, let people see. But it's a fantastic idea, because the government need to know. That's how the government will know, get the feedback for know how things are going. So yes, sir, that's a very good idea. Thanks for adding that to it. Yeah. So we'll now move to the other topic. We say now part of the main topics today, and that is the issue of the new the airport. Some call it the new airport. Some call it the extension of the old airport. So we'll go appreciate if you can shed some light on it, Mr. Mangot, in terms of what do we call it? Do we call it the new airport? And then also we're going to address the cost, and we're going to make comparison in relation to the Kotoka airport, Kumasi, I believe Ghana, and the cost between that international airport there in Kumasi as opposed to this new one, Lungi, weighing at 270 million. And then with some of the other attachments then, such as employees being fired, whether who manages the airport, whether the airport is leased and being run by a foreign corporation or a local corporation, and whether just the Suma group supposedly that's in charge is just in management. So there are a lot of issues that we would like to make you address for WISA, and we'll ask you some questions as we go along. So that said, I pass it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shillong. I think this airport issue, I think I will get to take people into a journey. How did yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, okay. I said, for people that understand for the whole issue, now for take them to how this airport begin, this whole thing about the airport. We know say when this government, before this, we not get the issue about the Mamama airport. And the Mamama airport also been getting a lot of controversy. The first issue is that we need a modern airport system in our country. So the last government make out any comparative analysis between the Mamama one and the Lungi. So let's start with the Lungi one. The Lungi one started with this whole idea where the government will get a grand plan proposal there and say, well, the whole program will be a bridge from Lungi, then we'll get an airport, we'll also get hospitality facilities there, like hotels, and also then we'll make Lungi like a second city. But we all know say that they not take off. So the airport extension, to me, na the best option. Now that na then say the airport, they enter into agreement with Suma group of companies were based in Turkey. And also, let me make it clear, this not for saying a company will not get experience because they don't do airports in several countries. So the experience not there in doubt. Right. But problem start first. Now how we they negotiate them in our country. And under we constitution, and if you can give me time for check, section 116 of the constitution. Now talk about how government go enter into that kind of agreement here. And part 4, subsection 3 say, no loan shall be raised by the government on or behalf of itself or any other institution otherwise, under the authority of an act of parliament. So Lord take and say, if government want or enter into agreement, then get for do them through an act of parliament, we give them the rights there. Waiting at this act of parliament, the act of parliament will give them the rights. Now the Public-Private Partnership Act in 2014, where means a government, either a ministry or a parastatal, can enter into an agreement with a private company or let them do an infrastructure development report and make arrangements. So the system where government use, then call them build, operate, and transfer. What in that mean? They enter into agreement with for let them build, but we get another system where make them more clear. We can call them in contract term DBFO, then a design, build, finance, and operate. So it means saying a Suma group of companies that then design the airport, and then they build them with their own finance, and then they operate them. And how they go operate that airport day, now they can normally do it under a concession, which means they'll give them some time for and also with interest, because if you go take loan, so it's a form of a loan. So even though they tell we say it not cost government nothing, no, that is a myth. It is a loan. The only difference with this, rather than then give you the money directly, we are in an agreement with them, say, okay, in a design the airport, in a bill them, which in a money, then in a go operate them over a period of time for road. But that's a question for another day. So now understand legal basis. But for doing anything in there, now one mistake would they make. And that mistake there, it don't happen with several governments. Because if you know they go sign the agreement and give Parliament for ratifier. Not to say you do it. To Parliament, you don't get this opportunity for bring an investor under the same PPP Act and then present to Parliament the documents them where in I don't do. And before you do that, you have to do your figures. You have to look at forecast, the passenger throughput, almost now the money where then they spend in relation to the revenue. At the time when they present this to Parliament, because the agreement was a done deal, then just say, okay, Parliament, that this one do, so in approval. And for justify that, then tell Parliament, say, okay, we they build this airport, because yes, we want to get a modern airport. Then some don't talk, say, when they travel in other country there, then they see better airports, so they want let Salone get a good airport. That is good. But the point is, the forecast way then give, when they present these documents to Parliament in 2019, then say one of the reasons, which is one thing which I want for let people they know. Then say this new airport within the bill, then they bill them in anticipation of growth in traffic. That is mean the number of people the way they use the airport. Then say the non-see say, now almost 1 million people now go use the airport there. For a year, annual passenger throughput now 1 million. But if you look at the current number of passengers in our airport for the whole year, it's about roughly 250,000 people. So you're talking about a 300% increase. So at which point we will reach that 1 million people there? Then I'm a first question. Because right now, now 250,000. Now we come to the issue of whether a new airport or an old airport. So now look at, if you talk about airport, forget about USA is located, right? Because this new facility, I will call it facility, is close to the existing airport, right? Then Bilam, if anybody will don't go Lungi, the entrance there by the Putloko end, because when you go to the main road na Lungi, you get a road where they go through Putloko. So now they are the new entrance, as opposed to the present entrance we then get. So a new airport, waiting are the components of a new airport. One, you can forget a new runway. Two, you can forget new control tower. Then you get the terminal building. Then in the terminal building, you get facilities for passengers, both arriving and departing passengers. You also get places there where they give concession to them where do a duty-free shop or business all day. Then you get the navigational aids there, where the three main one, we get one we call the VOR, where VOR now they show the location of the airport, right? Because now an instrument they call them VOR, that is vertical omnidirectional radio range. So if aircraft they fly even above the airspace, that VOR they show them the location of the airport, because our radio signals they emit to the pilot. Then we get what we call the ILS, when are the instrument landing system. Then again are also an equipment where when the pilot they come, now that equipment they tune in radio to or instrument to, where they get signals, now they show them the angle at which if or land at the airport. So you can forget navigational aids, fire service, new control tower, new runway, new terminal, and all that. That constitutes a new airport. But now look and say now, the airport then at the same location like the old airport. For me, I can categorically say now an annexed to the whole airport. and then still they use the feature of the old airport. So there is no new runway. So if we technical team have been sent them the runway we then get, if you can put that picture there up for we, I can able to explain the runway which it happened. Okay, if we look at this runway now on this side, you will see a number called 1, 2. So we get 2 ends of the runway, right? On this one, we call our runway 1, 2. That now according to the compass points. Runway 1, 2, there towards the end of the sea, right? Then the extreme end of that runway is runway 30, within at the land side. So the air traffic controllers they give landing permission based on the direction of the wind. Now make sure if you land in Lungi, you go see some 10 and the way the plane they come from the sea. If they come from the sea, now runway 1, 2, now the 1, 2, the way you picture, now they land. If they come from the land, now the other side, by the Putloko side, when I runway 30. So in effect, this existing runway, all you go see, they widen the runway, and if you see that curve there by the runway, now called the loop, because when aircraft they go for take departure, if they go up na the runway, they go around na that loop, they get a place where it stop. When they wait for the pilots, the air traffic control, to give them permission for takeoff.
Yeah.
So that's this whole thing. Then the other feature of the runway, the airport structure, we get what we call the apron. The apron, that big area can land where they front the airport. Right? Then at the apron. Under this new facility, they extend the apron. And the other new thing where they bring, you get passenger footbridge. Like them modern airports here, you know, say when you go to the airport, you get a link between the plane and the building. So you not get for going to ground. Like now, with new airports, where you want to go on a plane, then they load you in a bus. And now, because of security reasons, you know, then they load you in a bus, then drive you go. That makes sure you land safe. Sometimes they can delay, then they wait for bringing that step. So now the step now, they go up the airport. So the new facility, it get that passenger link there between the main building and the airport, where you not get for drive through. But that passenger link there, not to all type plane they take. Even a Heathrow or Gatwick, you can find out, say, so or there other airports then. So Kinde, when you land, the side where they land the plane, because of the size of the plane, you're not able to link to that passenger link there. So we still need the stairs then. So that is a new feature. Plus, we get a big passenger lounge. So in conclusion, I describe all lengths. Then get a new control tower. Yes, but now the old control tower, the equipment they get, perhaps they go modernize and then they put in the new airport, na the new facility. So from this description, I will call them an airport annex. In fact, if we are making an aviation term, the first terminal we will call it Terminal 1, and this one I will tell you, I say, Terminal 2. So it is an annex to the new airport, to the old airport. So that's my description.
If I may ask, because I hope we'll be able to resolve. Here is Dr. Turat Senesi, I think now the current Minister of Lands.
Yeah.
And they say, I hate contributing to social media of late. The reason is simple. Everything these days is politics. If it is not APC, everything is bad. And if it is not SAPP, everything is bad. The airport is a new brand airport constructed in a different location in Lungi from scratch. The entrance to the new airport is from the Putloko side, which you said, roadway. away from where the old one is. Away from where the old one is. The newly constructed airport will host up to 10 planes at every given point in time with a capacity of 50,000 passengers monthly compared to 10,000 monthly using the old airports. The reason for such massive construction is to make Sierra Leone a hub for international travel in the sub-region. Now, in light of which in this minister,
before you go,
yeah.
let correct the figure. If you take and say, let's say something, because let's go back to evidence. I like deal with evidence. Here, this project was presented to Parliament, said in the DWAM in anticipation of we get a throughput of 1 million passengers. Yeah? But from what you read, the minister is saying current is 10,000. Not so?
Yeah, and the
then
projection
the
is 50,000. 50,000.
50,000 monthly.
That would be 600,000.
So
yeah.
That would be 600,000.
Correct.
But the actual figure now, I get the source where you get all airport throughput. The number of passengers now with airport currently now 187,000 monthly. So even if we take in figures, right?
Yeah.
You know which the 1 million we can tell Parliament say now that amount they go through. Then now they say it's a new location. The way they construct the airport, let's go back to the old airport. The Lungi airport was constructed just after the war, right? So that location there, where the airport
may I interrupt you? Which war? Second World War or this recent Civil War?
After the Second World War. Second World War.
Okay.
After the
All right.
Okay. So, outside the airport, they now, the existing airport, now they the village been there. Right? So they been for shift that village there further, now make so the village after the airport, then call and Tintefor. Now it's in the word. In Tim Amfoy, where they say Tintefor, now new site. Okay. But when they build the airport, they left for the land in case of airport extension. So outside this new facility there, now palm groves them in there. So then just extend them. So it's the same site, but they extend them further because the new terminal is adjacent to the old terminal. If, like say, them build the airport in a different location from that Lungi location, even within the same Lungi Peninsula, from outside the old airport there, then they will get for put all the features they will tell you. The new runway, we this not get a new runway, right? A new control tower, new navigational aids, access roads, parking spaces. So that's my argument for say it is an annex to the new airport. And even those facilities where you did the pedestrian cross bridge, some of the plane then, they're regional plane. They don't get enough height for use them footbridge and they. Unless the designer, which I don't know, where it can be saying a tilting connection. So if a smaller plane, then can tilt down for meet the domot, whereas if not a bigger plane, then can tilt upwards for meet the big plane. So that's my answer to your question, sir.
All right, sir. So am I to assume or am I to accept that they do not have a new runway? Is that is the current runway an extension or an improvement on the old runway, or did they build a new runway?
The length of the existing runway is 12,500 feet. It can take any large aircraft. Because at the time I worked there as an air traffic controller, one of the largest aircraft will be in the land now DC-10, McDonnell Douglas DC-10, which is about the same size as a Boeing 747, a different brand. So the airport, the length of the runway is enough for take any large airport, any large aircraft. So the length was not increased. The runway was just widened, and then also the loop, if you look at the picture, instead of widening. Because when you widen the loop for the big aircraft for turn, so you can get more space. So that's it. There's no new runway. Anybody can do Google Earth. You check, you go see saying that the same runway will be get, now still did it. Now just a rehabilitation and widening of the runway now take place. So if you're a brand new airport, if you forget a new runway. Now the existing runway, now they improve on.
Okay, because we try for nail it down to be sure that the public is appropriately informed. Because I think the minister here is saying
it's a new facility. I'll call it a new air transit facility adjacent to the old one. But it's using some of the features of the old airport.
All right.
Like the navigational aids and the runway.
Now, since because of your knowledge about airports, there was a time, I don't know if you get the information on the I try to think of the right word, information as to the number of planes that the airport now they receive on a regular basis in relation to, like, say, 20 years ago, all the airlines that will be come.
Well, I was an air traffic controller at that airport from 1976 to 1979. And at that time, we had about 15 different airlines operating at the airport. And we even get a smaller terminal because this one way then at the old airport, now an improvement in the previous terminal. Because if they are never been to go Lungi, I saw Mr. Shilon, the tell you to travel go America, where you family then go see you, then go say goodbye. If you remember the old airport building, then we get up Garrett.
Yes.
When a day you go, you wave to you person where the plane they go. But if you look at the new structure, you look at it again. So at that time, we had a smaller structure, but more airlines compared to today.
Yeah, because I can remember we had like Air Afrique, Air France.
If people want let me name them, I can name them off head. I can begin cuts. So that will be accurate.
Can you please? I think it's helpful.
We had UTA, Union Transport Aérien, with a French word, which was taken over by Air France. We had British Caledonian, which later on was taken over by British Airways. We had Czechoslovakia Airline. We had Aeroflot, then at the European one at the top. We have Lufthansa. We had not only CSA, we had let's take the African one them. There was Air Guinea, Air Mali, Ghana Airways, Nigeria Airways, Air Afrique. So I'd almost reach more than 10. We will get even Panam Binegode. Then we get Middle East Airlines. We get Middle East Airlines. We even get Cubana from Cuba. Because remember them in get that one Angola where Cuba been is. So Cubana airline been stop now Freetown. And the reason being because we airport is so located that from mainland Africa to Central America and South America and at the shortest distance. So we had all those airlines. Right. Now, if you look at the two major airlines, the way they come out Europe, now just SN Brussels and France. And even that thing, we can get KLM. And KLM no longer operates.
Correct.
So now SN Brussels, and Air France are the two major European airlines in the one, where they give you international, intercontinental connection. Then you have Kenya Airways, which are major. Then we have Turkish Airlines. Yeah. Then you have the other smaller airlines like.
What about? I think you also have Air Morocco.
Then Air Morocco. Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you look at, you want to take it in parallel, Air Morocco is operating the same way like Middle East Airline. But later on, we even get Air Jordan.
That's right.
So if you compare the number of aircrafts landing at that time to now, we had more aircraft by then than now. But again, I'll go with the Namion prediction. Let's talk about the good part now, because we'll just talk about the other part. With this kind of facilities, we see the good thing from the airport, because you got all them facilities. The airport can be as a hub for major airline, because we continue to get airline. So there's a strong possibility, say now we're going to get direct flight to London, when I did most of the traffic there, and for inner way on the other side of the pond, it's likely that you'll have direct flights to Washington and New York, which is a good thing.
That's great. That's great. Now, in furtherance,
if you have that direct flight, it will even likely reduce the cost of air travel between mainland Europe and America. Because when you travel from America for go Salone, you have to go to Europe. So it's like a two-legged journey.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you get a one-leg journey, logically, the price of the ticket will reduce. The same with here. Because if me, they come on London, I want to go Freetown, I either go to Paris, Brussels, Istanbul, or Casablanca. Those are the options I have. And whenever you change aircraft, the leg of the journey, the ticket will cost more. So that's the positive step.
Well, so in a nutshell, it's a progress, and tremendous progress. Okay.
It's a progress. I'll give that a plus.
Okay. Now, with respect to that, I think the projected, I don't know if that's the final figure, but I think the projected figure of the cost of the airport is about 270 million. So I think we wanted to compare, since even the minister himself here was trying to compare this airport with that of Senegal and Ghana. The minister said that. You say India, anybody for say, watching this Senegal and watching the Ghana. No, this airport's not comparable to them facilities than they. You see, it's because that's what he says here. That said, the figure where we know say this airport costs, the Lungi
Can you talk about Ghana before you go, Mr. Shilon?
Yeah, I think Mr. Mengot is frozen. Can control room help us out on that? He's frozen. Or is it my system? I don't know. Which, because sometimes. Okay, Mr. Mengot,
yes,
you back?
We have one caller on the line. Let's give the caller an opportunity to call in. The control room, can you bring the caller in, please?
Hello, viewers. This is Umaru the call.
Hi, Mr. Umaru. Thanks for calling. Nice hearing from you again. Happy New Year.
Yeah, thank you. I wish you the same. Long time indeed.
Yeah.
Actually, I've been just want to ask a question. Then from there, I'll go make a little bit comment on this airline issue.
Okay.
But the question where I want to ask now about Edmund Abu.
Oh, okay.
We according to the rumor, they say them fine them. Say if we pay certain billions of the new loans or old loans, I don't know, if we pay because of a lost the case now court. But I read one notification where the viewers put on the page where they try for talk say they be even award Edmund Abu money for covering losses. I know you understand the press release where the court give out. So now make the acts. What are the circumstances concerning Edmund Abu? Then one thing again, where Abuan again la ask because people need to comment on that. Sierra Leoneans they pay for way mobile telecommunications they play music, ring back to when you sign means of advertisement. Why Sierra Leoneans they pay for them? Why didn't they take megabytes from people and because of or why people and they buy the song, the jingle songs? Sierra Leoneans they pay for the jingle songs. Why that for happen in Sierra Leone? Where if somebody call you music they play back na your phone, why they for take money when a form of advertisement for their own company? Because we all in go see a mobile company that then country there, they do advertisement, they don't even seek consent, they at the same time indirectly they ask you for make you pay. You see, so I never understand this because I see them launch one music that I know now say Sierra Leoneans no get money, but yet still the company, mobile company, they tax Sierra Leoneans for pay for that music, and nobody know they talk about that. Then concerning the airport in your side, I never understand because what take happen, we not go for they say all the thing at one place we get them. We gladly wait and get the Lungi airport they don't extend that because no new one extension. We glad for that. But why make them scrap the Mama project for just go spend extra money for extend the airport? We glad him. But why make we not go get the alternative of Lungi airport? Why is there no alternative of Lungi airport in that country? Thank you very much. My own concerns and ever.
Okay, thank you for calling. With respect to Mr. Abu.
Before you answer that, I just see a notice now, a comment now Facebook. You gotta look the Facebook where somebody try for do a correction where they talk say Air Afrique, now French airline, not African airline. That is not correct.
The African airline, to me, like managed by
Francophone African countries.
Indeed, managed by Air France, but it was owned by the African speaking
then they get relationship with Air France, but it was owned by Francophone African countries. It's just You're like right. If you take it similarly, like Kenya Airways is owned by Kenya, but they have a management agreement with KLM. Yeah, so Air Afrique, the ownership is different from the management. But I'm glad you will bring this topic up because the next two we're going to talk about now the management structure now under this new local and new airport for want of argument.
For convenience.
I want to make that point clear.
Okay, before we answer this question,
yes, go ahead, sir. I think there's another call on the line.
Let's take one more call.
You want to continue on the airport?
Let's take one more call, then we'll address the questions.
Good evening, Mr. Shilon and Mr. Mengot. This is Fode Mustafa from Leicester. When I thought three topic them, I mean, maybe 3 minutes would be enough. First, you talk about
we'll give you extra time.
Edmond Abu. Edmond Abu. Right. Now, they want to scare Edmond Abu. Make the effort talk about the issue there about the mobile tariff, them mobile issues. If you watch the case, this case only for many years, long period. So now you make the force put on a cell, and now then the charger for 10 counts, you don't know which side the count then come out. And so that if it come out now, it go not go talk about these issues anymore. So that the mobile company will do what they want for doing at the country. So this is the reason. If I tell about the judiciary, if I want to bring one back, this same judiciary, the way they remove parliamentarian from parliament, one of the parliamentarian who can the air, he talks say, he resigned 1 year before, that's what the law say. The ruling where they give against them, they say if we don't get the intention, another 1 year, it means 2 years. We lost in a 1 year. I just want to remind you about this judiciary when they talk about everything that they do now, that judiciary they corrupt. So let me jump quickly to this airport. You see this airport, when a guy come, then tell me say, then they can make a new terminal. This everybody know. When I go back, when I listen to the audio them, the conversation them, even at Parliament, now a terminal. So now because people in the Alala to say, well, 270 million for a terminal. When I don't get a new airport for 350 million, this does not make sense. So now they want to change this story for making them say they don't build a new airport. And they expect all of us for just listen to this story and know we take them so say that's what it be, which is not correct. You don't talk say na a terminal. What is wrong say you can't build a new terminal like when Mr. Mengo do explain and so. People are not going to know say a new airport forget this, you forget this, you forget that day. And now they just want for them who all believe say they don't can build a new airport. Listen, this Salone issue. And often say we serious for law will move forward. What we can talk so? If they say that person they can invest, that other person they can invest, okay, then yam 20 years, then yam 30 years. Say at the end of the day, the whole world will come. Then they take care of that, then they take care of that, then they take care of that. They don't take the whole country. The government don't want to spend. Like no more we talk about that parliamentarian, that lady we talk about the Gambia. I only talk about them over and over. The only thing where government is stressed on is Salone. We are paying salaries. Any projects, when a developmental project, then they say developing partners, that's what they call them. So this is the same thing. When that woman is talking at the Gambia, say, no, we increase the salary. They said they don't increase it. They pay them 9 million before this parliament starts in Salone, then we don't double them. And then they want other facilities them back. Even the education what they talk about, because maybe before I have the question, what do they mean by 22% of the budget? So what did they do? What did they talk that 22%? The salary they inside the all. So at the end of the day, if something will happen, past the development partners and come back. If you see them be entering there, so they count the books them, the bags them, what they promise. This now I think now almost now $200,000 or $100,000 that's what they cost. Now other people when they go buy them, government will get $200,000 for buy books and bags and shoes for picking them. Because the money all they get now for salary. We shall we cannot say then they put salary inside this budget. Now this year when they make up, then tell the tourism ministry, they say this now for salary. Because we not understand. So if we not understand what you mean by 9% and 5% and all the salary the day inside it. So at the end of the day, if they remove the salaries them from the budget they talk about, maybe na taking the left because they don't want to spend money. All which government and they boast about now for say we pay salaries. We pay salaries. This airport now a project where we say with a loss. Because why? If the man and they run this airport, now what did happen? All the government revenue they get right now, so they don't get again. I mean they sack all the people who they tax to. Now they car operator, all the revenue they go to them. So it means government can't lose revenue back. When we say we not even get money for law run the state. Now this one money we get from that airport, now they don't can't take them back. We not get it again. So this now if we check that money, oh they lost monthly, take 30 years. We don't lose big time that 300 million. Forget about what you get from Eco. We not just what you get from the airport force as revenue for the government. Forget about all the other business who they take place in the airport. We lost big time money now we can lose for the next 30 years. So now this I just want to add to the conversation. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sheelan. I just want to make a point clear.
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, even from the comments they get from social media and some waiting people in the talk say, Salone not appreciative because they build new airports with the grumble. Let me make it clear as a professional, right? I have nothing against improving our infrastructure. And I've said it in so many media that
And you've said it. You've said
I give a lot of credit to the government for providing a proper and modern facility for air travel. I will call them facility. I want to stray away from. So I don't get nothing against them. But the key issue where they talk about, when they talk to Salone people, let we get clear-cut description of what was done, why it was done, and how it was done. Now, if we talk about revenue, I will touch on one thing. Then I will show the different type of revenue where an airport, the source of revenue where airport they generate. Right? Now, recently, because it's very vital to this discussion what they talk about, it good let government be honest with people then. And I stand for the truth. If people remember, say, some time ago, we had some information say they want to impose this $25 tax or charge for security, right?
at
And
the
the
airport.
communique when it come out from Security Port, where Security Port now one of the service provider the airport already, where they own waiting and they do now then they provide security in terms of scanning machine where they scan with luggages them, CCTV camera for security, and also the sniffer dogs. So when Security Port puts that communique there, it got to the attention of the people of Sierra Leone. There was objection. Because people and they say we already they pay for security. Part of the cost of we fares what they pay. I remember the speaker raised that issue in Parliament. Then the response was that Security Port not get that right there for do that. So scrapped. Fast forward, what happened after a month or two, then bring them back. This time, it came from the Ministry of Internal Affairs. And I remember vividly the Minister of Internal Affairs was interviewed. What he told us was that government being the subsidized security to the tune of $100 per passenger. That's what he said. It is on record. So they said they now negotiated with Security Port for reduce them to $25. Let we, the passenger, then pay. That was what happened. Now, let's look at how much revenue is generated from that based on our current figures. If you search, then get details of the throughput of every airport. So as I've been saying earlier on, with current passenger throughput is 187,000, there above, slightly above that. So if you multiply that 12 months period by $25, we are raising $5 million on this 25 security charge. So do you want to tell us that now $5 million and they pay them people and they for provide security? Is that value for money? These are some of the issues that we bring up and question. And as a professional, I like for deal with figures. I stand to. So when it comes to airport revenue, waiting at the revenue airport they generate. One, landing fee, because then they charge airlines for where they land. Yeah, you get a fee for that. You get fee for cover passenger handling. You get fee for cover cargo handling. Yes, that's another source of income. Also, the people them where they can get concession, like if you get restaurants, you get duty-free shop, then they pay for the use them facilities and they. Then another source of income. The one day where they supply fuel, then they give them contract, then they get for pay something. Even right now, you realize, say, most airports in Africa, you get toll gates. You pay toll for enter. And I think Salone airport should get that. Because they get it. So you get income from parking charges. That's vehicle parking charges. So there's various sources of income, right? And what we would have liked the government to do, and forget all this doubt about whether we get value for money, whether the airport costs 270 million or not. I'm not going to argue about that. But for God's sake, if those documents or the figure, because when you want to do anything, you get to do a business plan. You go look at your cost of operation relative to your revenue and your projected figure. If those documents were submitted to Parliament, on that basis, they make the calculation. Why not put it in the public domain? So that we get all this argument go say, well, look, we as a country, we are benefiting from such an arrangement. Boku country then they do public-private partnership. I'm not against that. Because God provide everything. Then just forget private sector. And not to the airport no more. If you go to a seaport, you get Bolloré. Bolloré is a French company where they work for improve with seaport. That's fine. But for God's sake, if we get to take this decision, and a commitment, it's just like we did in Europe and America. We not get their system in a Salone. Where you go buy us, you take mortgage. We now they take 25 years for pay. I call them 25 years IHL, imprisonment with hard labor. Because if you lost your job, you know, they could actually seize your property and you lost everything. We don't see issues there with China on infrastructure development program, other countries them. When they take their loan and they for build their facilities and they're not able to pay for them, the Chinese then take them over. These are the issues we are raising. What if these people, when they take over the airport, they're not able to get the projected income or for pay the loan back within that period? What happens? The question we should ask. So, Mr. Shilon, if you comment on that, then I will end up by looking at the contract and the arrangement for transfer management of the airport to this company and how the regulatory mechanism goes there.
Well, in fact, I wanted to go in view of the shortness of time. I wanted to go directly into that because we see within the circulate of late letters of termination of employees them, and we some of the people in the question the process by which people are being terminated. And the only question we want to ask you if you get an understanding of that, so you can explain to the audience, and that is, or to the listeners, and that is, who currently are these people called the Suma Group? Are they, by definition, legally a Sierra Leonean group, or is it mixed, or is it a foreign group doing business in Sierra Leone? And the employees who are being terminated, is the Suma Group, are they assuming management of the airport for the Sierra Leone government, or that the ownership and management is being transferred to them until they recoup the money when they invest at this supposedly $270 million? And what happens to the employees who are being fired? Then they have certain rights with respect to adequate notice, as well as longevity on the job. Are they considered civil servants? Some of them. So I just want if you, in a nutshell, if you can address some of the issues and the plus which you want to talk.
Okay, now let's look at it's similar to the agreement where the previous government been do with China group of companies for the toll road, right? And then it's covered under our Public-Private Partnership Act 2014, which means the government, either a ministry or parastatal with the approval of it, based on the provisions of the act, can go into partnership with a national or international concern for do an infrastructure project. The Suma group of companies is based in Turkey. Their business is construction of large infrastructure and specializing in airports. Let me make it clear, they have the experience to do such a project. There is no doubt about it. They have that. So the arrangement is that under the terms of the Public-Private Partnership Agreement, they are providing us with the money, the 270 million. But to recover their costs, they are giving what we normally call concession to manage the airport. Even that alone, some people say that 15 years, some people say that 25 years. I'm not sure which is which. So what happens is that Suma group of companies, now then are the people, then are the contractors there and the financiers. But they need a management company for manage the airport based on the contract where they sign, because they will manage the airport until they recoup their investment plus interest. So there's now, I would say, a subsidiary group of companies which is called Suma SL. If you say Suma SL, that means Suma Sierra Leone, because when they register company, you cannot use the word Sierra Leone. Anything Sierra Leone are government. So now make sure they call it Suma SL. What we call it in project management terms is like a special purpose vehicle for manage the airport. And if it's Suma SL, it means if it's registered in Sierra Leone, it means they must have Sierra Leonean directors. So they're the ones who are given the authority to manage the airport for the period of the concessionary agreement until they now, when that period ends, they now transfer it to the government. Now, let's look at the employees now, the question we raise. Because we see, say, the ministry make an announcement on Monday that as from Friday gone, the Suma group of companies will take over the operation of the airport. That is as per the agreement. But the new facility would not be operational until March. So the existing workers, the way they did it, these existing workers are employed by Sierra Leone Airports Authority, because the Sierra Leone Airports Authority now then get responsibility as at present for manage with airports. So it's like a transfer of ownership temporarily, or management, transfer of management over a defined period. And when such things occur, you get to think about what happens to the existing staff of SLAA. We were told that the staff would be absorbed by the new Suma SL. But then we see, say, on Friday, people are posting on social media that there are some people, well, also I think there was a communique say, well, the ones them way, some of the staff of SLAA have been retrenched. But you know, go give them a notice the eve of the transfer under employment law. Because similarly, we get a new employment law now. You get when you're employed, you're given a contract. And that contract they go say, if they want to terminate you, normally, minimum, it has to be 30 days. So for just give them 1 day, and again, it is not something which is unprecedented. Because when you normally the way it works, then if you don't give them 1 month notice, say, well, at this particular time, your contract is going to be terminated. So normally what happens under that situation, in fact, then they terminate all the contract of SLAA staff. And when they terminate that staff then based on their operational organogram, they will ask people to apply for those new positions because it's under new management. New conditions of service based on SUMA SL. There's bound to be some who would not be needed in the system. Now, they want to then go pay redundancy money. But at the time of notice, 9 day in question, it's bound to happen. Not all man go absorb. Because when you're moving from a parastatal to a private concern, the management and operational structure is bound to change. Yep. Because they are working on their business plan. So that's my explanation. But then we not forget, say, apart from SLLA's Salone Airport Authority staff, there are other people providing services to the airport. That is Westminster Security, when they do passport verification, and security port. So we would want to know whether those contracts with those people who are providing those services will be taken over by SUMA SL. If that is the case, they have a contract with government. And it will be a cost, because if you get a contract for 5 years, then terminate her within 2 years. Obviously, you're bound for ask for payment for that period there. So this is another unknown. So that's my answer to that. But when you do this privatization, the structure of the airport management, control, and operation, we have the Ministry of Transport as the parent body. Then we have Civil Aviation Authority. Civil Aviation Authority, now then at the regulatory body, just like I have, you get the Maritime Administration for ports, or you get the other one for the road transport. So Civil Aviation Authority, their role, now then they look at the technical side, like the plane the way they come, they never get airworthiness certificate. Just like if you vehicle, they get roadworthiness certificate. The pilots, the way they use them plane in the kind side, they never forget the technical competence. So now then the CAA, now then they set the standards. Salone Airport Authority, not a regulator. It is a parastatal that manages our airport. So what becomes of that authority? That's another question.
And what role will the Ministry of Internal Affairs get in this context whatsoever? Why are they involved?
Okay. Ministry of Internal Affairs, immigration is under ministers. So if you look at the different agencies then at the airport, like talk the parastatal, immigration is under Ministry of Internal Affairs. Then even SLA, Salone Airport Authority, get their own security. Right? Then the Airport Authority is under Ministry of. Then you get security. Like people from Office of National Security, they're there. You also get drug law enforcement people in there. You also get police. And for God's sake, we don't add military people in there. We are not a war country. Waiting do soldier man for day in the airport for security. That's what I don't understand. So we have to look at the whole structure of management of the new in relation to the services that SUMA SL provide, and where do all these agencies relate to that. But the overall supervision is under the Ministry of Transport. Now make sure the ministry is called Ministry of Transport and Aviation.
Well, Thank you so much, because we could not have had a better person to give us a better explanation than you have given us. I think there's a whole lot more that can be said, but we always get time limitation, time constraints. So we are almost out of time. So that said, I just want to give you any further opportunity that you may want to express in terms of this issue, because we'll not even get the opportunity to go to the third issue, which we definitely will not be able to reach, because now the Employment Act, the Parliament, which will have been the third one. But that would take us way past the guideline, because we're already almost at 6 o'clock. But that said, I don't know if you want to elaborate more on any additional issue on this topic, because one question we get, I think would address that partially, was the issue of the airport security tax, which some people are claiming. Well, there are two problems. Some people are claiming that the airport security tax is already paid for by passengers, because the airline ticket contains that fee where then the charge as part of the cost of getting airline tickets. And that this $25, and now then the government, they talk about dollars, which is a little bit of a contradiction, because they're requiring landing passengers as well as passengers then when they exit the country for pay this newly imposed security fee, where, like you say, Parliament recently raised an issue that it was a form of taxation, an airport tax, and then they've managed to wiggle them away. But why, in a sovereign nation, would they talk in terms of foreign currency for any type of financial transaction? So since dollar not to be official currency, why are they requiring $25 from people, not whatever the equivalent may be in leons, if in fact there is justification for the $25, which they are now refusing to call airport tax, but everybody knows now a form of taxation. So I don't know if you adequately respond to that, or if we had all the explanation we can possibly get.
Okay, Mr. Shilon, what I'll say, because you see, Salone people, we people, myself, na Sierra Leonean, there's always one side of argument against the other. And which I would tell people for say, for check whether that happen, when you buy your ticket from any airline or agent, then they give a breakdown of waiting that fare they constitute. And I remember at one time, somebody being post that out, it showed the different components of the ticket. And obviously, things to do with passenger handling and everything is covered by that. And security is one aspect of that. That is what I will say for this moment. But if people they want to prove me wrong, when they buy them tickets, let them look for the breakdown. It will tell them. Now, coming to this $25, as I said, the issue is that the government say the money now, because then they pay security to security port, then as service providers. And these people, obviously, because of the volatility of the leon, wants to be paid in dollars. So that's why they're charging in dollar. Well, I get another thing, because I traveled to Sierra Leone very frequently. It's the same thing during the Ebola, where you can get for pay for you, not Ebola, sorry, COVID, for COVID tests, right? If you're paying from Sierra Leone, when they come out, you can pay the equivalent in leons. They allow you to do that. You can either pay in dollars or you pay the equivalent in leons. but mostly you can pay the equivalent in leons. Right? But when you're inbound, you pay a foreign currency. Of course, they may say they can forget all the and everything for COVID now makes sure then they charge in dollars. But this time, I've not been to Salone since this charge was imposed. People who have been there are saying they are asking them to pay in dollars, inbound and outbound. And the reason they say they are charging that amount is to pay the people providing security at the airport. That's the reason they gave us. So that's as far as I know.
Pretty
Out
interesting.
of time, I want to round up. Let this be the last one.
Yes,
And
sir.
let me make an appeal to my people, right? From a professional point of view, I am not against development. Secondly, I commend the government for trying to improve air transport facility in our country, because we're going to. So we welcome that wholeheartedly. We are not against that. Thirdly, based on the contract we can get with Suma, the arrangement is not unprecedented. It happens elsewhere. But the dark cloud is, one, will that arrangement there and the management arrangement open to the public, so we will know waiting at the role of all the agencies and they were mentioned. If they can do that for we will be very happy. The business plan, also the projected figure in terms of passenger throughput, let them make that clear to we, because then they could decide whether we get value for money. But again, I want to say, as a Sierra Leonean, as a professional, public-private partnership is not new. I think we get one more call.
Yeah, this is what
If the
Ms. Fadima, I think she's calling probably to ask a question or to make a comment. Yeah, hello, Ms. Fadima, welcome. Nice to hear from you.
Hello. Good evening. I hope that they hear me clearly from Freetown. I think I'm echoing, right?
No. You're coming
we can hear you loud and clear.
very clearly.
Okay, it's kind of echoing on my side. Good evening. I've been at the travel from Lungi. So I listen to now, and Mr. Margot, thank you so much for all this explanation and clarity on this airport. But my own concern about the airport where I get is the cost of the airport and the length of time we get for lose revenue. And also a lot of unemployment go there, because they say the reason why they don't get rid of all them people, they want the people they reapply back and they get in severance pay. And I asked the question, they're gonna give severance pay, almost severance pay they go give to them people. Then now this they can add to the huge unemployment will get in a Salone, because people are gonna lose their thing. We're all for development, but we want something where the benefits majority of Sierra Leoneans. If these Turkish people are going to have an airport for 25 years, and I hear, talk on the ground that they're also going to do the ferry back then again to these Turkish people, and these foreigners are coming in, and then they collect revenue, and we leaders and they make deal them, we're not a benefit we. 25 years is a long time. By the time when they end that terminal, they give it back over, it's going to be run down, out of style, out of whatever. Then we go again to another debt where, I don't know how people and they think. And people are sitting out there, celebrating. It's good to celebrate progress. It's good to celebrate. But the thing is, things that, did we really need the airport at this time? when we have hospitals, medical, like who don't cancel na Freetown, what in Freetown, so over 4 people they don't die. We can't Freetown, we don't get good medical, we come out overseas. We don't get good medical for you go to the hospitals, there are no doctors. You get certain hospitals where you go. But if you go on weekends, there are no doctors. President Bio promised me a mega big medical center. Me, I for been prefer we do down the force before we remember about airports, because we don't have the traffic. We are, we just say guess and estimate, say, okay, maybe we'll go get 1 million people. But what are the possibilities? Because look at the cost for Canada. Yes, we say, okay, direct flight. I heard Mr. Maggot talking about direct flight from New York to Freetown, like they do in Ghana and Abuja and Lagos and all them African countries, West African countries. But then will we have the passengers? Will we have, because business not in here for the people and they come that often, like when they go to Ghana, to Nigeria and stuff. But then they talk about maybe they will use this as an hub. But then look at all the infrastructure problem that we will get, all these other boku problem. We don't day almost days. The light is better in Freetown, but water we not even get. We can't even fix those problems. So me they ask, we get for do development, but the things that are going to make the lives of the people better, me I've been say, if me been get choice, or if me been get like an advisor to these people, let we do the basic necessities of life for people first. Then we think about building 25-year contract and 25-year debt, because we're losing money. Or the phone company, we will just live like this, so it's nothing to write home about. But it's a shame. But thank you so much. And also another wrap up, and thank you for accepting. I miss your VOS. I will be back. I will be back in February sometime. I will be back. But from Freetown, I send love to everybody. Thank you very much. Good night.
Madam
Thank you very much.
Fatim, I'm just holding the fort for you. When you come back, I'll let you have your space. But one of the people who comment say they for retain me here for, but I will let that person they know say I get another program where they do with VOS where they start next weekend where they deal with transport matters and purely transport and development matters. And also one thing I would let people know, my last comment on this airport, because when they say that they build this airport and talk about the Lungi Bridge, if you build airports, one of the things where they think about now surface access. But even with the new airport, we've still not solved the surface access problem. Not to all Mawan can Freetown. Some people and they go upline. But the bulk of the people in Freetown and they come. We don't get another thing where they talk about ferries when another Turkish group they bring come. So what is happening to that? So these are some of the issues. So airport is just one facility, but it gets so many other things where for back the usefulness of that airport day. And I think say the minister they mentioned things like hotels, hospitality systems. If we get hotels around, quality hotels, airlines will change crew na Lungi, but if they're not there, then I'm afraid we're going back to square one. So thank you very much, people. I think I'm enough now. I'll leave it to my co-host, Mr. Shilon, for give a roundup, and we will say tata from now.
Okay. Thank you very much, as always, Mr. Mengot. You've been wonderful. Well, you can tell by the suggestion by one of the callers, one of the callers that one of we regular listeners, a very capable person, highly informed person, who made that suggestion that we should retain you on the show because this is a person who knows what he's talking about. I think I know the person who sent the comment. So we will take that into consideration of show because we think the country needs you more than the show needs you. Because we need very informed people and to come on the show for try for disseminate information to the rest of the world and to the rest of us. So some of us, we want competence matters. We not to bring anybody with any degree of hesitancy that we don't want anybody to come on the show for overshadow we. The more, the merrier. So for that, you've been nothing but a plus to the show. And we thank you for that, Mr. Mangot. And that said, thank you very much, fellow listeners. Please, we'll look forward to joining we next time. And until then, good night. And we'll see you next week. Take care.
So that